Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path. We're coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper. It is good to be with you on this fine... What's the day, Mike? Yeah, it's a fine Monday evening, and it's good to be with you. Hey, so we got an exciting show. So here's what I'm going to tell you, is that I've been promising this show for like 3-4 months, I think. So you guys, if you guys remember, we've been talking about asking the question, how does good news change the world, right? Like, I believe it changes people's hearts. I think it changes their eternity. But I also believe that there's a tangible change in the world as the light of Jesus flows into it. Good news does indeed change the world. And so we talked to the fellows from Discover Hope 517 in Newton. We had a discussion with Matthew Loftus about how can we look at healthcare differently? How can the good news of Jesus Christ change how we look at our health and the provision of healthcare, and kind of the animosity that goes with trying to figure that out as a nation versus how we might view people in that circumstance from a good news perspective. And so we got there, and then we've been trying to find someone that could talk to us about sex trafficking. And I don't even know why that came up as kind of one of our top 3 items, but we thought, I think it feels like there's so much darkness there. We'd love to know and have visibility to how good news changes that world. And so I'm excited. We have a couple folks that we're going to talk to today. We're going to talk to Joy Fopma, who is the founder of Wings of Refuge, and she will do a better job explaining it than I will. So I will let her do that and have her introduce the organization and herself and kind of what that's about. And then also, I mean, ancient friend of the show.
We've been friends with this man for 9 on to 15 years, Ben.
What? Really?
No, but I mean, 6 years sounds not as cool as you're saying.
Okay, yeah, no, I was going to feel real bad if it was that long. But anyway, so we've met Nate before. Nate Beaird, we interviewed. Somebody let us do a live remote one time, and we interviewed you on Happy Birthday, Nate. It was you were raising money for mosquito nets.
Yep.
Right. And so we ran into him in that respect. He's been on the show one other time for an issue that we could not recall jointly. But he's doing another campaign with the Wings of Refuge called Merry Christmas, Nate. And so we're going to talk to him about why he latched onto this, why he thinks it's something important, and then what the goals are, and how you can help. So that's going to be the kind of the bare run of the show, and then we'll also have advice on Dear Life from the Path. I'm sure something exhilarating.
It's debauchery being at best.
I know. Came across some clips of the show yesterday, and one was where some guy had asked for advice on his cat, who was he was jealous of his cat because his cat was looking at the window at the neighbor who was exercising.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But anyway, that's the type of thing that people want advice from late night internet radio, and that's the type of thing they're asking about.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to change. Here we go. The positive. Good news changes the world. This is going to be much better. So we have with us via Skype, Joy Fopma with Wings of Refuge. And so, Joy, thank you so much for joining us on Live from the Path.
Thanks for having me.
I'm very, very excited to have you for the reasons that we were kind of talking about. Like, there just seems so much darkness in the world when we think about people trafficking humans. And so I wonder if you could do us a favor and just kind of introduce us to what Wings of Refuge is.
Yeah, so Wings of Refuge is a safe home for female survivors of human trafficking. So we are solely focused on the restoration of the women that we serve from the trauma that they've been through. And
so how let me ask you this, how do you it's from Iowa, it's in Iowa Falls, yes?
Well, we can't give away our location.
Right on.
We're located in Hardin County,
okay.
Iowa. Mm-hmm.
So how do you find yourself doing this work somewhere in the middle of Iowa, being a place of refuge for trafficked girls? Like, what brought this about in your life?
It's an interesting story. Actually, my oldest son was attending college in Texas, and a team came onto his campus that had made a video documentary called Nefarious Merchant of Souls, and they showed that on his campus, where it showcased that there was 27 million slaves in the world, and really broke his heart to the issue. And now I joke and just say he did what any smart, intelligent young man would do. Got that information in front of a pretty ferocious mama bear, and said, "Mom, you've got to learn about sex trafficking." At that point in my life, I thought it was, that problem over there in third world countries, and I felt really bad about it. That what's a small town girl from Iowa supposed to do? But after he brought the video home, after viewing that, understanding what the problem was, the Lord just broke my heart to the issue. And also being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse myself, I did have a small understanding of exploitation. So it hit a little bit close to home, and just really knew that the Lord wanted me to do something about it. So literally started a movement of prayer and asking God, Lord, what do you want us to do about 27 million slaves in the world?
Boy, I feel like that situation seems so daunting to come across, to have that burden kind of put upon you, and then to look around and be like, well, now what? What do I do? What can I possibly do about that? So what did that next step look like?
Yeah, so that night after viewing the documentary, watching, little girls in Southeast Asia, when you birth a little girl, when you become a parent of a little girl in a third world country, you're said to have hit the jackpot because you'll never have to work another day the rest of your life. So it was pretty overwhelming. That night I was angry at God. Like, I'd never been one of those Christians or people saying, if God's so good, why does this happen? But that night I did feel a little bit of that. And so I just began journaling and praying and asking the Lord, what do you want me to do? I knew I could just cry some tears, and in a few days all this information would have faded away and I could go back to my normal life, or I could engage in what I was learning about. And so we started the movement of prayer. There's so many lanes to get involved in the movement of anti-trafficking, whether it's working on the issue through policy changes through the law, recovery and rescue, restoration, or just awareness and education. And we knew we had to find the place where we could serve and what our lane was going to be. And literally it boiled down to a mathematical equation for our team, the 12 people that formed to pray. Back at that point, there was 629 beds specific to the aftercare of survivors of sex trafficking in our nation, and there were hundreds of thousands of people in our country being trafficked every year. We were learning that oftentimes they were America's orphans now grown up. Oftentimes they'd been trafficked as children. And so where were they going to go if they were able to get out? If family and, systems had failed, where were they going to go for help? And so that's where we learned that our call to restoration was going to be where we were going to go.
Do you feel like, so part of what you described there, I feel like I'm embarrassed to say was surprising to me. Like, I think sometimes when we get a talk about something like sex trafficking, it seems not here, right? It seems like an elsewhere problem, a problem born out of a third world poverty, or it just seems somewhere else in the world. And so when you were talking about kind of the orphans of our society, do you? I don't know. Maybe that surprised me. Maybe I don't have a question in there. I'm just. I think my reaction is that surprises me. Maybe I'm embarrassed to say that surprises me. Do you feel like that is something that we did? You have a feel for how much that was feeding this issue in the United States prior to starting this?
No, I didn't have a clue. And the Lord had already given me a heart for orphans. I'd been to Africa. I'd been to different countries on missions trips, and so my heart was deep and wide for orphans. And I always thought orphans as little children over in other countries in orphanages, and James 1:27, it says true religion is to look after orphans and widows in their distress. And my husband and I actually, before learning about sex trafficking, had a plan to, raise our own children and then go over and help orphans in a different country. But really, when we learned about sex trafficking, what we learned is that we are oftentimes just ministering to orphans or widows in their distress, whether, as crazy as it sounds, leaving their pimp, the one who has trafficked them, as awful as it was, that was their provider, and so they have to grieve that loss. And they've had, family has failed, and so they're orphans and widows a lot of times. And so we are, in fact, still doing what that first call was in our lives. It looks a whole lot different than I expected it to.
So what is it? What is the experience like for a girl that comes into your care? Like, how is it a long-term placement? Is there counseling available? Like, what does that look like for them? How do they transition into a life that's different from where they came from?
Yeah, so essentially what we're asking her to do is come and heal with your buyers. We're the people on the outside. Everyone not in the life or the life of trafficking is potentially a buyer to her in her mind. So asking her to come and trust complete strangers is a pretty huge, the first huge miracle that happens in her life. After that, everything we do is individualized. People are all different. A lot of times the experiences are similar with the women that we've served. So the first thing we're doing is taking care of her medical needs. If you can imagine being raped for profit 10 to 20 times per day, a lot of times your body is pretty wrecked out. And so we're just meeting her immediate needs in the beginning. Oftentimes her documentation has been taken from her. Oftentimes she comes with only the clothes on her back. So we're just basically just giving her the things that she needs in the first 30 days or so. Everything after that is totally individualized based on her goals, based on her gifts, and based on the way God designed her heart and her personality and her interests. And so we take a holistic approach. We deal with the educational pieces, the life skills, and the training. But the biggest thing we really want her to come out of our home knowing is that there is a life, a hope of possibilities, and there is, and that exists through the person of Jesus, because all humans are limited. And so that's our hope, that when she leaves our home, that she knows there is a different way.
What's one thing that you feel like you personally have learned since starting Wings of Refuge? Maybe something that you didn't know, or that you know or feel differently from having kind of jumped into the burden that was given to you.
Oh man, I've learned a lot of things. The girls have been my best teachers. I've learned so much about their bravery and their courage. But the biggest thing I think I've learned from them and just living life with them is how to be unchurched, to really live like Jesus, to, the way that we share the gospel is very different. It's doing life on the daily basis when there is no, I sometimes say, we're not a rehab, we're a hab. Like a lot of times there wasn't anything that was before. If day one sexual abuse and violence started out for you and anyone who wants can have sex with you, there's no frame of reference where safety was ever in existence in their life. And so, like we can't say, oh, you need to live a pure life, like that's just going to put shame on them. We have to even first teach them what does that even mean? What does that even look like? Because to them, sex is just just an everyday transaction. There is no intimacy, there is no relationships. I'm just literally a commodity. And so even just to get them back to their own skin and body parts. And so really just learning how to show Jesus and to present the gospel in tangible ways in that circumstance, and really listening to Holy Spirit, I think, is what I've really had to learn how to do through this process.
That's interesting. I think I think we've seen that pretty consistently talking with different folks that are interacting with people that are on the peripherals of society for whatever reason. Is that a lot of the framework, a lot of the work that the church does for its own kind of edification falls on. They're not deaf ears, but they're ears that just they can't even take it in. They don't have a frame of reference for it. They don't. The words that we use don't mean the same thing as they take it in, and so it really comes through the hands and feet of what the people of Jesus are doing to demonstrate and kind of help with defining what those are. That does seem to be a pretty consistent theme from the church and the interacting with folks in kind of those situations. And maybe that points me to, well, actually, I'm going to ask you too. I told you I was going to ask you this as the last question, but I have a follow-up. But like, based upon kind of what you were talking about and maybe the theme of what we're trying to answer, if someone were to ask you, how does the good news of Jesus Christ change the world when it comes to sex trafficking, how would you answer that question?
You know, our tagline is, so that exploitation ends for one more girl. And 27 million slaves in the world is a huge desensitizing number. And so the gospel changes one life at a time. So we don't take on the 27 million, we take on the one in front of us. And her life is worth, just like Jesus when he went to the cross, you know, like it was worth everything. We were worth everything to him. And we take that same mentality with her, like, you're worth everything to me. And that's hard because no one's ever treated you like that before. And it's hard to trust, you know, because I'm a human, I'm going to fail you. But there is a hope, and it's Jesus. Just reminds me of a story of one of the girls. She came to us, and literally, like, her trafficker was going to kill her, and she was able to escape. So she came to us, you know, her hair had been shaved off, her fingernails had been pulled out, she had burn marks all over her, she was pretty wrecked out, and there's no education, there's no conference, there's no guidebook for how do you deal with that situation.
Right.
And so I was spending some time with her. You know, she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I mean, she was just numb and robotic. And just thinking, you know, how am I even going to connect with this woman? And because of security reasons, we were going to have to, again, move her to a different home. And I had to tell her that night. And so I just, I talked to her, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know what it's like to be you. I have no idea. I don't understand. I don't know what it's like to have been through what you've been through. But that place of mutual brokenness in my own life, God used. I just said, you know, I do know what it's like to be small and trapped and helpless. And I do know what it's like to live after that and have hope. And she looked up at me, and one thing is the streets tell you always don't cry. The girls that cry die. And just tears just started rolling down her cheeks. And she looked up and she's like, I thought your life was perfect. And I was like, oh no. You know, and that place of mutual brokenness where we get very vulnerable and transparent with one another is a place where healing can happen. And she went on. I continued to stay in her life even after she left our home. She continued on and came to know Jesus. And so I think it's just loving the one in front of you and sharing Christ. Like, you know, I love Philippians 3:10 that says, I want to know Christ, and I want to know the power of his resurrection, to share in the fellowship of his suffering, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow resurrection from the dead. And I think that place, you know, of knowing Christ through suffering, where that mutual brokenness happens and the cross and trauma, you know, collide with the resurrection, and then that and so somehow resurrection, you know, there's only one way to know Jesus Christ as Savior, and that's through confession of sin and, you know, believing the work that he did on the cross. But that and so somehow resurrection can happen a million different ways, and we watch that every day at Wings of Refuge through the huge revelations of a girl finding her tears and the small things of, deciding to stay and sleep with us one more night when, she's not sure if this is what she wants. And so we celebrate a lot with the one in front of us for every milestone in that and so somehow resurrection process.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That is how good news changed the world, and for everybody. And to watch it be able to permeate where there's darkness that we don't even understand is a beautiful thing, because we serve a beautiful Savior. So let me ask you this: if people are interested in helping, what are some ways that they can help?
Number one, we always ask for prayer and intercession. Prayer is what fueled and birthed Wings of Refuge, and we're literally, the Lord is plucking women off of hell's doorstep, and we need people praying about what we're doing. And the second would be to give. Restoration is expensive. It's messy. It takes 9 staff to allow our home to run 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we need people to give. There's a cost. When we decide to make women a commodity and reduce them down to skin and body parts, when we decide to make porn a natural part of our culture, there is a dollar amount to that. There's a cost. There's a financial cost to that, and especially on the lives that we're deciding that it's okay to use. So I would say give to Wings of Refuge, and give to what our awesome friend Nate is doing with us. It's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. So and we'll get that to the Nate portion. The Nate will say, "Here's how this is done." I can see it. He's ready for it. Okay. All right, awesome. Joy, thank you so much for sharing some time with us. I really appreciate it. I was, I'm encouraged and burdened both, and I think that's probably the right place to be in these types of situations. And so I appreciate you sharing with us. You can learn more if you go to wingsofrefuge.net. You can also find them on Facebook. You just do a search for Wings of Refuge, and if you go to if you like Live from the Path, we like them. So if you want to look at what we like, you can find them that way as well. And please do pray for them, and it's something that you can make consistent for them as well. But to take that good intention a step further and give. And Nate will share some ways that you can do that in support of Wings of Refuge through the stuff that he's working on. So please, I would encourage you to do both of those things. Again, Joy, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and let you go. And hope you enjoy your rest of your night. But thank you for joining us on Live from the Path.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, that was Joy Fopma with Wings of Refuge. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with that conversation with us. It was one that I was interested in having. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had this every time we've talked to somebody about how the good news changes the world. Is like I sit here and I listen to the way that God has burdened people with things and how they've accepted this burden, and and they're just messy things that, like, I don't know, you can read books to do this, right? Like almost everything we want nowadays is a YouTube video or a book to read and be like, then I can do it. And like, how do you deal with sex trafficking? And then Joy says, yeah, I'm in.
You do it.
And I just say, thank you, Lord, that you have people, right? That you have people that feel this burden you've laid on them, and then go, yes. Where I would, I just listen to these stories, and I'm like, I can't barely hide back my crying when they're telling these stories. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I could not function in this way. I don't know how you don't walk down brokenhearted going, in fear of the 26 point blah blah 999 million. You did get the one, and like Joy's got it nailed. Like this is what we do. This is what the gospel does. And like, man, I don't know. There is it's hard coming from a male perspective, and I'm real interested actually to ask Nate about this too. It's like it's hard from a male perspective because we're kind of the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're the problem here, and so like it's hard to listen to these stories and go like, I mean, the team that I'm de facto on because I was just born this way. I'm like, crap. Like I'm representing a bit of the enemy here. And so I don't know. It was really interesting to listen to what she had to say, and I don't know. I'm interested to see what we can do to help.
Yeah, so let's talk about that reintroduction of our. We're gonna go with longtime friend.
Yeah, that's good.
And
dear friend,
and dear friend and confidant.
That might be far.
Comrade Nate. So Nate Beaird, and like I said, the last time we ran into him, he was using his birthday to try to raise money for some mosquito nets to combat the lurking nighttime malaria problems that a simple net can solve.
Yeah.
And so I love a man that hijacks Christmas.
That's right.
For good reasons that serve Jesus. So you're doing Merry Christmas, Nate. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing and how you got hooked up with Wings of Refuge.
Well, that kind of goes back a couple years. For my job, I do digital media at Open Bible Churches, and one of our stories was of Brandy Sliceman, who's one of the staff members at Wings of Refuge, and we were doing for our magazine, we were doing an interview with her. So she came down, we filmed her, and filmed the interview. And after we turned the cameras off, there had just been a big sex trafficking bust in the news.
Yeah.
And I said, you've got to be pretty excited about this, right? I mean, all these bad guys got, and all these victims got rescued, you know? And she said she was, but I could tell there was a little bit more.
Yeah, right.
You know? And so she goes, yes, I am excited about that. But if they don't have a bed to go to, if they don't have a place to go, then they'll probably get sucked back in,
right?
Either through coercion or just need,
yeah,
just because that's all they've known.
Yeah,
and that hit me like a ton of bricks. And so some time passed, and I had kind of been looking for something else to do, kind of like another Happy Birthday Nate.
Yep.
And nothing really was sticking with me. Nothing, like the Lord wasn't really, really punching me in the gut about anything.
Right.
You know? And after she said that, I was like, this is it.
This is the thing.
So some time passed, and I was actually in their town a little bit later for a separate project. It didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And we ran into somebody that I knew also knew the Wings of Refuge people. And she goes, oh, yeah, they're having their board meeting. They're having their board meeting right now. And I said, are you serious? And I said, is Brandy here? And they said, yeah. And I said, I want to talk to him. So being the impromptu guy in true Nate Beaird style, I walked in on the board meeting.
Right on.
And I said, hey, my name's Nate. This is what I did for my 30th birthday. And for my 35th birthday, I want to help you guys. So you need to tell me what you need.
Yeah.
And Joy's eyes, I'd never met her before in my life. I only knew Brandy.
Yeah.
And Joy's eyes were as big as softballs. She's like, who is this maniac that just walked in and he's saying he's going to launch a campaign for us? And
yeah.
So that started our conversation. And so we'd conversate back and forth. We had group messages, and we'd kind of talk about what this looks like. And then for whatever reason this year, since my last birthday, I've had 2 kids.
Right.
And so they kind of just suck all the time out of your schedule, in a good way. And I could not get the campaign off the ground. I just couldn't. It was like one roadblock after another. It was insane.
Yeah. And
finally I decided, you know what? I'm going to hijack Christmas.
Right on.
My birthday,
yeah.
Halloween. So, and then I got to thinking, Christmas is actually really perfect for this, because it's about a story. It's about a guy coming to Earth to rescue those in captivity, to restore lives, to make people whole again. And I thought, how perfect is that? And so yeah, I said we're going to do Merry Christmas, Nate, and this is how the campaign's going to fit together, and with sex trafficking and with Christmas, and that's kind of the short of it. But
right on.
Yeah.
So what's the goal here?
Okay, so the goal is they have one location that's in a small Iowa town, which is really kind of perfect for sort of getting out of that lifestyle, for a participant to sort of detox and get out of that lifestyle and sort of just have no other nothing else on their plate but just sort of being restored.
Yeah.
But that same small town that is sort of like their safe place,
Yeah.
it restricts them after a while when they want to grow more.
Sure.
When they want to, because the whole goal of restoration is to live an independent life.
Yeah.
So when they start to want to maybe go back to school, when they want to get a job, when they want to get a car, or any of these things,
Yeah.
a small town just can't offer that stuff like
Right.
Uber or Lyft or public transit or community colleges, that sort of thing, or
Yep.
a very just tons of job opportunities, waitressing and
Sure.
clerks and all that stuff. So a town like Des Moines is perfect because it's not a huge town, but it's got a lot of the amenities that a big town would have.
Sure.
So the idea is that they would have a second location where when a participant is ready to pursue those things, they would go to this second location that would be in or around the greater Des Moines area.
Yep.
And they would have those things like Uber or Lyft or whatever, so they can go get a job, they can go to school, they can do the things that they need to do to have an independent life.
Yep.
And so that's really what I'm trying to do. So $750,000 is the goal, and I know it's a lot, but that's the goal. I mean,
Yeah. All right.
it doesn't make any sense for me to try to raise $5,000 when $750,000 is needed.
Yep.
So I said the other night, if you need 15 yards for a first down, you don't throw a 3-yard pass. And so this is the goal, and this is what I'm going for.
No. Hey, actually, I get real frustrated when you need 15 yards and somebody throws a 3-yard pass, and you're like, "What were you thinking?
Right.
That was not helpful." Who called that dumb play? Not Nate Beaird. Nate doesn't do that. Okay, $750,000. Put a transitional spot, right? Like, yeah, it's just it's a right logical step, right? Like, if you want to be able to provide that for folks, that makes a lot of sense, and it seems like a pretty prescient need, an unfortunate one, but certainly something that you need. Where do you know where you're at so far?
So right now we have just a little bit over 2,000
Okay,
raised.
we got a lot. We got to move. We got room to move here.
Yep.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do that. We should. I mean, Mike.
I mean, I got something.
That's like pocket change for you guys.
I mean, we got to hang around here.
I think
$250,000?
I spent $725,000 on the way in. Man, I wish you'd have said something.
Oh man! So let me ask you this: so, what has anything changed for you, a perspective or an understanding in the time that you've been working with Wings of Refuge?
Yes, and I would say even more so before I started working with them, because I had a little girl.
Yeah.
And so when you don't have kids, it's terrible. It's ungodly. It's like, how can these people go through this? But when you have kids, it makes it a lot more real. And, there's not a lot that I can do to make the world a better place for my daughter necessarily where I'm at in my life.
Sure.
But I want to make sure that there's restoration there. I can't always be with her. I can't always be protecting her, and I trust God with her life, of course. But if I can be part of helping restore other lives, that really appeals to me. And the fact that she can see her dad doing that, that makes it real too. And so as this past year, as we've sort of been working together with Joy and the rest of the staff, I've learned a lot about sort of the industry, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And every single time, isn't Joy great? Every single time I talk to her, she tells a story about something that, to her is just like every day.
Right.
She's, and to me, like one time I was talking with her and she's like, yeah, yesterday we just celebrated a birthday for a girl who hadn't had a birthday party in 5 years.
Ooh.
I mean, what?
Yeah, right.
That's crazy. So, so she's always telling me those types of stories, and like you were saying, Mike, I get upset when I go to a restaurant and they sell Coke and they don't sell Pepsi.
Right.
Like it changes your perspective a little bit on what's really important.
Yep.
And what should make you mad or not. And so,
I guess this is where I'm convicted here, and maybe it's on a broad spectrum here, but like I find that after having these conversations with people, I'm frustrated with myself and maybe some of us who are following Jesus that like we're afraid of the dark. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want to go. Like,
right on.
It's not like this sex trafficking thing is new to me. Like, I had no idea it existed. Of course I did, right? But like, either I don't figure that I just it's not my place. I don't want to get all involved with that. It sounds like real messy, right? Like, I just don't want to get involved with it. Or frankly, I'm scared of it. I'm scared of it. I mean, the type of mess that she's talking about, the type of folks that are looking for the ladies that are now trying to get restoration, right? Like, we're just, I think we bow out of the stuff like Jesus is afraid of the dark, and he's not. And we shouldn't be either. And like, hearing people just dive right into this stuff and say, look, this is what we're going to do. And like, I love that. I love that. That's hands and feet that like, and it's not the cheesy hands and feet like with a gift bag and a funny VBS banner. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, we're serving the community. Well, kind of, you know, like most of these kids are coming anyway. Like, running a homeless shelter here. Like, you gave out free candy and lemonade. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes we go to bed satisfied and we're mistaken. We shouldn't have been, you know, like the fact that I can go to my regular job and like and not pass a truck stop and go, man, I gotta at least be praying for this thing. You know what I'm saying? Not like everybody's gonna be in their Exodus roading the thing all the time, right? But maybe some of the time, maybe something. Yeah. Is 27 million really that big? If we got the Church of Jesus Christ on it, we talked about this when we were talking when Adoption Day comes around.
Yeah,
where they're like, listen, you can yell and scream all you want about the sins of the world and the situations that have come up, but like if the entire Church of Jesus Christ adopted a kid, we'd be done. It'd be over. We wouldn't even be having this. We'd have to get rid of Adoption Day because it's not necessary. Because it doesn't matter how many kids you produce, the Church of Jesus seems to pick them up. Right. And we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It's scouring the streets of Rome, picking them out of the gutter.
That's right. You can't seem to stop these crazy folks from picking up kids. And the same is true with especially girls that have been put in a situation that they don't want to be in. There is no reason for that to continue. We have people outflanked and outnumbered and we have money. Don't act like we don't have money. We have money. Right? And so like all these things that like we're afraid of the dark, we got cash we don't want to spend, we got time we don't want to share, and like I listen to these stories, I'm like, what's wrong with you? I was mad about that Pepsi deal to Bebops today. I'm like, you don't have Coke at all? No, Pepsi only. I'm like, what is this, the 50s? You can't have Coke on tap?
What sort of Mickey Mouse operation is this?
And then and I go to bed satisfied, and that was my biggest gripe. That was the thing that moved me for the day, is the poor gal in the cheap Visqueen jacket at the Bebops could not produce a Coke on ice. I mean, come on.
And I think that's actually one of the things that was compelling from looking at how does good news change the world, is like it reminds us that one, that the world needs changed, and two, that the good news doesn't, right? Like sometimes it's hard. Like I'm surrounded by things that don't remind me of any of those.
Yeah.
Right. I work a white collar job for the most part. I go home. I live in a relatively safe community. There's some mailbox hoodlums. But I mean,
you can't shake them.
They're taking my advertisements for the oldies.
Yeah.
But oldies puts them out right by the door. Yeah. So
they setting up charters in every
no
neighborhood.
worries, Chuck. So you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it's not. Here's the deal: good-natured people, faithful people. I know that the gospel changes things, and I know that it's powerful. But sometimes when I'm not exposed to things, I miss the sense for how powerful it is, right? Because I'm not in that situation, and I don't see it, and I don't take part in it, and I don't affect it. And the truth is like when I see the gospel change the world like that, not only are people being forever cradled in the arms of the Lord Jesus that died for them, but their right now is better. They have hope where they didn't have it. They have joy where it doesn't even make sense to have it. They know love when they had no concept of it before, and Jesus provides those things. And to miss that, I think that's why I personally need to be reminded that good news changes the world. And I need to see it. I need to see light shine into darkness to recognize how dark things are, and make sure that we're not falling for a trap that says, well, it's about midday. I think it's okay. And so, like, some of this was to bring attention to how can we put time and effort and money. Like that was actually the core, right? Is that the spawn from. We said, if good news changed, well, let's write all the ways down. I expect it to change. And if there are people and say that the people of Jesus should be doing these things. And if the people of Jesus are doing these things, let's celebrate it and fund it and make sure that people know that it's happening. And if we look out and say the good news should be changing the world in this way, and the people of Jesus aren't doing this in this moment, then now it's on us to do it. Like that was kind of the premise of the thing. And so,
hey man, thank Jesus, other people are doing stuff. We haven't had to do nothing so far.
That's what I'm saying.
Except for support people.
Well, and that's kind of the point, right? As you look out, and you can find that God's got people on it. He's got people on it, and the question is now how can we be part of that of the outflanking of the darkness? A, you not be afraid of it. B, we say God's got someone who's in the trenches. They need money. You know what we have? Money.
Yeah, we have money.
You know what I mean? Like we don't even. This is the plot. We talked this a little. We couldn't broadcast last week. We have some technical problems, and we were kind of talking about some overseas mission stuff, and like. There's a level of maturity in I think an American Christian where they get to the point where they reasonably think I should go somewhere else. I'm not impoverished. I feel like I should sacrifice something.
Yeah.
I should go move to show that as a show God that I'm serious. And here's the thing: you know what a lot of those guys need? They need resources. They need money. You know what we have? Money. Yeah. Put it to some work, man.
They don't need
stay in your job.
They don't need a 5'10" white man in Uganda. You know what I'm saying? They need your money so Ugandans can raise Ugandans. You know what I'm saying? God has equipped them. They're not a forgotten people by the Lord, right? Like, I mean, right. He's got people that love and follow him in that country, and your white man status over there ain't gonna blow the place up.
Right. He didn't bless your stapling hide to go over there. He just says, keep a stapling, put 20% back, and send it over, and put it to work, right? Get a transitional house going. And so I guess that's the thing is like. We run risks by not seeing the world for what it is, but not recognizing the gospel for how powerful it is. And like this doesn't mean that I didn't believe the gospel was powerful. It's just I like to be reminded and to stand in awe of what God does with people and through people for the growth of His kingdom and for the restoration of the world. And this reminds me of that, and it reminds me that God says like we're not sitting on our haunches waiting this thing out until He returns. He's like, I want restoration now. I want it now.
I think one of the greatest quotes that I think I've latched onto and maybe has changed my life was Francis Chan's quote when he says, the church really should stop worrying about failure and they should start worrying about succeeding at things that don't matter.
Yeah, right on.
And that really changed my whole perspective on stuff. It'd be really easy to say, well, why didn't you create a monetary goal that was, like $5,000? That's easily attainable in the 2 months that you have the campaign going. But that's not the goal,
right?
It's not the goal.
It's not the goal. It's not what you heard what she said. Restoration is expensive.
Sure,
they got to have somebody there for 24 hours a day. And it blows my mind how expensive it is and how we just had a great Thanksgiving week. I love Thanksgiving. Love hanging out with my family. This year we told our family that we're expecting again. Yeah. So we got number 3 on the way. That was pretty fun. But then, I take all those feelings of like how I'm thankful for everything. And then it just drives me nuts the rest of the weekend when they have Black Friday and then they have Cyber this. And it's like, oh man, we just were celebrating how thankful we were for the things that we have in our life. And then we went out and just, everybody's going to shop. I get it. And,
right.
Maybe you need a coat for your child and you want to get a good deal on it. But you have stuff like this going on in the world and it just changes your perspective.
Yeah.
I've had to guard my heart. Honestly, I've had to guard my heart in watching a lot of that and just say, it's they just maybe haven't seen that perspective.
Yeah,
yet.
it's a blindness, and like it's not. I don't even from a Christian perspective. I don't think it's willful, but there are trappings of a society that is A, largely cares for itself, and B, has things that people there's just parts of the world or situations that don't have, and it creates the blindness that you actually have to fight against.
Yeah,
like you have to put a toothpick in your eyelids and force it open because you really wouldn't know the difference. And it's not a willful ignorance, but it's an ignorance all the same, right? Yep. And so I would agree. You do have to guard your heart and make sure that you're not just saying I take in what's presented to me, but it's saying I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking for where light needs to go. I'm looking for how I can direct time and money and resources to things that do good kingdom work that changes the world. And I think you do have to be. It's a mission work. It's not just a may it roll to me. I think we have to go looking for it. We're on the hunt for that, JS.
Well, and here's what I like about especially what she was saying is like, it takes some of the stuff that that I'm afraid of off the table for me. Like, I'm afraid I wouldn't know what to say. I'm afraid that I wouldn't know how to handle that situation, and I'm afraid that I would, I don't know, give bad counsel or get fired up when it's fired up's not what we're talking about here. Right. And she says, well, I'll do that. That's what God has gifted me to do. Excellent. I just need your resources. I just need your help. I'm like, yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
It's that old saying, when you give, you go. You
Yeah.
know, like, you can be part of it.
Yeah. I mean, look at the investment that you're making. There's a definite return. You know what I'm saying? It's not a wasted stop at the gas station that you will regret. You know, it's not a bad Black Friday purchase that you're like, I'll buy anything for $3. I mean, you know, they could put Barnyard on sale for $3. I'm like, I have to have 5 copies. I don't know why anybody would pass it up at this price. Right?
Wait, what is the Barnyard?
I don't know. I'm assuming it was the name of a low rent movie from the 80s. And what's the one with Chevy Chase sitting on some kind of barn car? It's always in the budget bin.
Funny Farm.
Funny Farm. Yeah, take it back everything I said about Barnyard and insert Funny Farm.
Sorry for
and move on.
That's not good news changing the world. Funny Farm doesn't change the world.
Anyway, I think the thing is especially with some of the stuff that like, I don't know, that God has had me around here lately. It really has me convinced that God really does give, and we call it a burden, and like I call it a load. You know, God's like, this is great for you, and this is what I need you to do, and they say yes, I'm on it, and all we need is just a little bit of support, and it's convicting because we can support it. We just don't.
Yeah,
I think raising awareness is a big part of that, because a lot of the people that I've talked to don't think about it just because it's not on their radar, but B, they think it's somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was looking at the Iowa Department of Transportation website. They said that there's an average of, I'm just going to round up, it's almost 8 million cars on Iowa roads every year. So let's just be really conservative and say that only 1% of those cars are traffickers.
Yeah.
That means that 80,000 cars are driving around Iowa every year with human slaves in them. Does that blow your mind or what?
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that the average age that these kids get pulled into it is 11 to 14.
Oh,
11 years old.
Yeah.
See, this is why I'm thankful for people that do this, right? Because like I can't get past my anger,
Yeah.
and the sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I have girls, and I can't. My daughter's 10.
Yep.
I'm looking right at her. I'm like, she doesn't even know who she is, let alone, you know, any idea what's about to happen. And like, I don't know. I'll give that.
So I asked a couple of teacher friends of mine, what is it that kids that age, 11 to 14, are like learning in school that they wouldn't be learning, you know, because they've been pulled into sex trafficking?
Yeah.
And they're talking about like, well, just simple stuff like friction and boiling points and freezing points of water. And they're starting to get into multiplication and pre-algebra and stuff like that. And those. So let's just say they've only been trafficked for 3 years, which would be an eternity. I think,
all right. Yeah.
But those are things that they never learned. But most of these participants have been trafficked for much longer than that. Let's say 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. So now they're 21 and they haven't experienced anything that we got to experience in our high school years, teen years, young 20s, you know. I mean, so they're coming out of that lifestyle and they know nothing.
Yeah.
They don't know how to call for a dentist appointment. They don't know how to what did we learn in high school? They don't know basic math. They don't know basic history.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're trying to fit seamlessly into a society when you haven't been, in those formative years of high school, you haven't been taught that stuff. You need to like she said, you need to go through a hab. There wasn't anything there before. You got to learn that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I love what Wings of Refuge is doing. And what I love also is that it's not a 30 or 60 or 90 day program.
Right.
I mean, they don't just kick you out after the time runs up. They're there for you until exploitation has totally ended for you.
yeah.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what do we do here, Nate? How do we? Where do we go? Where do we go to put resources on this thing?
All right. Well, you can go to merrychristmasnate.com, and there you can read the entire story of sort of how I started this whole thing and why I'm doing it, and the ask is there too of the $750,000.
Right on.
And so you can give. There's there's 3 options. I think one is to donate, the obvious one. The second one is to network, share as much as you can, tell anyone you can about it. That's such an important part because you never know who's going to see it and has a heart for it.
Yeah.
And, wants to give to it.
Sure.
And then the third is to learn more about Wings of Refuge and to follow them on Facebook and go to their website and kind of learn more about them.
Okay.
So on my Facebook, merrychristmasnate.com, Merry Christmas Nate, I've been posting videos of sort of meet the staff, and so you can sort of watch those, kind of get to know who you're giving to. It's a Christ-based organization, and so
Was it is it a charity?
it's a charity. Yeah, the donation actually goes through Open Bible Churches, my work,
Okay.
and so that's only because they're providing a donation platform.
Yeah.
If you feel more comfortable giving directly to Wings of Refuge, that's fine too. That's
Okay.
their nonprofit. Just tag it in the memo that it's Merry Christmas Nate campaign,
Right on.
and so it's just multiple ways to give to it. So
Gotcha. Okay. So you can go to merrychristmasnate.com. You want to be following Wings of Refuge and Merry Christmas Nate on the Facebook,
Yeah.
or is that the chosen social media platform? You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yep.
Yeah. Right on.
Facebook.
Yeah. So here's the thing is like I think you should be praying on that. I think we need to be praying on that. I think we need to educate ourselves on those types of things, right? Like I think we gotta force our eyes open if they're not there. We need to know where the darkness is so that we know where the light should be.
Hey, so is there a good resource for that? Like, I stop at rest areas all the time, truck stops, whatever. Is there some stuff to be looking out for?
So the Wings of Refuge website has resources on it. Like there's a section on it where you can go and like watch clips, or there's like book suggestions, read, watch, click. There's like other websites and stuff that you can go to that you can learn more. I do wonder if I was thinking about that too. Some tangible ways of like just like daily things. What can you keep an eye out for? We were talking about like, can you help with the Super Bowl? Like,
Can we just roll up there like community watch style? Like, tell us what we're looking for, and I'll skip the game. Tell me what we're looking for.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like you know of any resources for that type of thing? Just like what to watch for?
I don't personally, but I can get in contact with Joy, and she
Yeah.
probably.
I feel like
Even things like the Iowa State Fair.
yeah, right on.
I mean, here in Des Moines.
Yeah.
See, and this is what we've been talking about. Like this is the community of God's church. I mean, doing something instead of just like. Here's the thing: you want to complain about the government, realize they only have the power you've abdicated to them, right? And that's what's going on here, right? So, like, if you thought, like, hey, our whatever sex trafficking watchdog of the government sucks, they're not getting enough. Why don't you get a band of dudes together and we'll get out and do it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We'll prowl the state fair. I'll take a couple nights off. We'll just go hanging around. We'll keep an eye out for stuff that shouldn't be going down.
Right.
And then maybe your complaints can have some validity. But like sitting in your armchair throwing fists at everybody, that's not helping nothing. So yeah, Super Bowl time. Get some dudes together. State fair time, dudes together. In fact, what we need to ask Joy is when do we need to get dudes together? You tell us the events and what we're looking for, and we'll get dudes together.
Well, some of it's probably. I think back to Nate's example. If there's 80,000 cars on the road over a given year, I mean, like it's probably just knowing the difference, right?
Yeah.
Like if I know basic things, look for someone who's obviously there against their will, right? Or like just in situations that should throw up a flag to say, hey, I wonder if there's something going on there. Am I willing to just go say hi and sniff it out just one bit farther than what I normally would? And so like, here's the thing: people who know the difference know the difference.
Yeah.
All right, and so like you don't even necessarily have to say, hey, tell me the events where we put guys at. You know what? Most people are going to the fair anyway. Just keep your eyes open at the fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Iowa State Patrol would probably know a lot about that too.
Yeah.
About how to spot that stuff. And I know, kind of ignorant on this topic of like being able to spot, who's being trafficked and who's not. But on TV shows, I've seen where girls who have been trafficked or in an abusive relationship, they have some sort of signal that's a nonverbal signal that they can give to. If they've been allowed to go into the gas station and get a drink,
Yeah.
that they can kind of pass on to the clerk or something to like tell them like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
And so it'd be great to find out what those things are.
Yeah, we should know
I can't
that
help you with
stuff.
that right now.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. People got to know. State Patrol. That's a good call.
Yeah.
But that's only half the equation. Once they're rescued, they've got to have somewhere to go.
Right.
And that's the key to this second location of Wings of Refuge.
Yeah.
They've got to have somewhere to go to be restored and learn how to live an independent and a confident life.
You know, I'm going to grant me some grace here because I get that this is not an apples to apples comparison. I think you can. There's an inference here that I may not be intending to make, but like when she was talking about like if you get out of it but you don't have anywhere to go, like you end up back in it. It made me think of the demons leaving and then the 7 more coming in, right? Like if you don't have something to replace it, you remain hospitable. Or you remain like going back to the same thing.
Else,
yeah, exactly right. And so, and I thought, yeah, like not seeing both sides of the equation. Like the big victory seems like yes, we snatched someone away from the problem, but like that's a very shallow. It's
quantifiable.
Yeah,
it's something you can put in the news. Like 200 people were rescued. Like,
yeah,
that is great, and I celebrate that.
Sure,
but 200 people need restoration.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah,
rescued into what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they just moving them out of this particular. I mean, if you go from one white van to another white van, did it really matter that you moved? It would have made no difference.
Yeah, right. So yeah, absolutely. It's recognizing that like what are we seeking, right? Are we seeking the count that says, hey, we got them out of the back of a semi trailer? I mean, that's great. But like we're long haul folks. In fact, we're forever type of people. We're eternity minded kingdom folk. We say we just don't do the event counting. We're long-term restoration people. That's how we look at things. It's how we understand things. And so we got to be careful that we look at when we're gauging effective work that we're counting in the right perspective, that we're looking at it the right way.
Yeah.
Well, and the reality is we all return to our sins unless we got Christ in our eyes.
Yeah.
You know, unless we're seeking Him and being intentional about that.
Yeah.
Then we'll return to our sins almost every time.
Yeah. Right on. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're praying on this stuff. We're gonna work on some education stuff on our end, but definitely go to wingsofrefuge.net and then follow both Wings of Refuge and Merry Christmas Nate on Facebook. Now here's the deal. Tomorrow's Giving Tuesday. In fact, by the time you see this, it will be today. Get on that. One, like share it. Right? Nate's right. Like maybe it's not you. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're giving your money to something else. Look, God's got all kinds of cool, sweet kingdom work. Great, be on it. But that doesn't mean you don't know someone that this is something that would be beneficial for them to see. It's something that they care about, something they can give to, and so social media is at its best when it allows us to connect people and things, especially things that we care about.
Yeah.
And so if you can share the pages, share the campaign, go to merrychristmasnate.com and donate. And here's
even if you can only give $10, a lot of $10 gifts donations add up.
Yeah.
Can
Right
I
on.
share a story real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So during the Happy Birthday Nate campaign 5 years ago, I was about halfway through the campaign and I was getting kind of bummed out because momentum had kind of dwindled down. You know,
Yeah.
It was long after your show, of course.
No, absolutely.
After
There's
your
that-
show, the momentum was.
Life from the past spike.
Yeah,
and then,
stellar.
yeah, absolutely.
But so I was really down, and all of a sudden one morning, my contact with World Vision that I was working with, they called me in and said, "Hey, you just got a $15,000 donation." And I thought, what in the world? The more I found out about it was this church in California that I have no connection with, and they 3 years before had raised money, and they were going to give their some of their missionaries money for nets for malaria.
Yeah.
And they raised the amount that they needed to raise, and so they had $15,000 sitting in their bank account earmarked for mosquito nets.
Awesome.
that they couldn't do anything with until somebody was raising money for mosquito nets.
Yeah, right.
You know how the law works. If a donor wants it to use it for something, you have to use it for that.
Yeah.
So they saw the campaign and they donated $15,000.
Awesome.
What I learned through that was that the Lord goes before me.
Right.
He prepares the way. And so by sharing, donating is perfect because it helps others and it helps you understand that you're part of the process.
Yeah.
But also just by sharing the content and sharing it across your social media network, you allow other people to see that.
Yeah.
And so the Lord worked in that church 3 years earlier and finally gave them an opportunity to give. That can happen too.
Right.
What if there's $750,000 sitting in a bank account earmarked for restoration of sex traffic victims?
Yeah. Right.
The Lord's pockets are deep. And I don't mean that in a name it and claim it kind of way.
No, yeah, right. He's
The Lord's economy is amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we think of $5,000 goal, and we're like, "That's doable," and the Lord laughs and goes, "Poof."
Yeah.
That's that other.
I don't
one
want it
sounds-
to be doable. I
Yeah.
want it to be great. And
I want it to be me.
Yeah.
I want you to know I was here,
and I want it to be him.
and I
Yeah,
want it
like-
to be him. That ain't no doubt. I love it when I get these things in my head about how the Lord interacts with his people. We're like, these dudes raising 15 grand, and he's like, yeah, hold on to that for a little while. But Lord, it's 15 grand. I just need you guys to sit
Yeah.
tight. I got us some other
I'll
stuff.
tell you what
brewing.
to do with it later.
That's right. I'm sorry, you don't sit in this chair. I sit in this
Oh
chair.
man, that is a prime opportunity to Abram and Sarai, right? You gonna
Yep.
be like 15 grand, Lord, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna find something. You be put guys on it all day trying to figure out what to do with this money when your goal is just to sit tight.
Yep, you just hold on to that money.
I think that's why the 750,000 doesn't seem like a big deal to me because
Yeah.
number one, it's not my job to worry about it. It's my job to do what I've been called to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Faithful in the
And
means.
so-
God's gonna have to handle
yeah.
the ends. That's a God-sized figure. He's gonna have to do that.
I obviously can't do it, so it's got to be
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Unless you get you spent 720 on the
Yeah,
way here.
if you caught me a couple hours earlier, I mean, I drove 3 Jaguars in here separately.
Like not the car. You own exotic animals.
Actual Jaguars.
Yeah, ride through town.
on a saddle.
Their names are Mick Jagger and Son.
All right. Hey, big thanks to Nate for coming in.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. We'll keep you apprised of kind of how the campaign is going, and we'll keep pushing that stuff. And you know,
Were you ever concerned that MerryChristmasNate.com was already taken? I would have been
No.
really fired up.
Well, I checked it out first.
Yeah. I mean, I'd had to call the guy. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I would have done something like the real Merry Christmas Day.
The Lord goes before me, MerryChristmasNate.com.
all right. So I think your big way to change the world is to be involved in this Wings Refuge business. I think in minor ways, Mike, we're going to try to change the world on some advice. Maybe Nate will bail us out here. Go ahead. People need help. Go ahead.
Dear Life from the Path, my 25-year-old son, quotes Jay, would like to come home for Christmas. I'm paying, so I made his reservation yesterday. Late last night, he told my husband he needs to go back 2 days earlier because of work. This change will cost around $150 more than the $215 I'm already paying. Although my son earns a 6-figure salary, he is unable to pay his student parent loan on time each month. When he's late, I get harassing emails and phone calls. The loan is in my name because Jay blew all of his $60K he got from a settlement, and he begged me to do this for him so he could graduate. My husband and I are retired, but we both work part-time. Jay and his sister are reluctant to pay for their tickets when they want to see us. They each live an hour plane ride away. They always seem to have enough money to travel and do what they want to do. I am so upset. I'd like to cancel the holidays because I feel we are being taken advantage of. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah. 2 things. One, yes, you are being taken advantage of.
That's true.
2, just you fly to go see them.
Yeah.
Quit flying them around.
That's a good solution.
Just go. It's just, like if you want to see them, just go see them. You ain't gonna bail on your own plane ticket.
No. You're going to stay the appropriate amount of days, and then you will fly home.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously the behavior's not good, but I mean, what are you gonna do at this point? Like I hope they change the ways. I think you should talk to them. You're still the parents. You should do your best to influence the situation. But like, there's probably a maturity issue there. They might very well get over it. There's no reason to blow up the universe on the thing. Just to control what you can control. Go see them and stop buying them tickets.
Yeah, you're spending too much time being mad about something, right? Like, you know the deal. You can either go visit them, or look, they can't take advantage of you if you just give it to them and be like, yeah, I'll pay for it. And then they try to stay 2 days later or go home 2 days earlier, and you go, sounds good. It was a gift anyway. Do whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, Ben says that all the time, that people can't steal what you gave them.
That's correct.
And so, like, if you
My
give it
kids
to them,
hate that.
yeah, they can't. take
Layla
advantage
stole
of
that from me. That you should just give it to her, and then the problem goes away.
Yeah.
Well, the son could pay the fee, the $150, and then that way he's getting a trip. He didn't have to pay the $2 whatever it cost, but he pays for the change of ticket.
Yeah, so like here's the deal. Is I think that if you need like a line in the sand or a straw that breaks the camel's back here, that's probably the offer I'd make. Say, look, you pay for the extra $150, and if he refuses, then put him in the right bucket. Say, look, he's just being stubborn, and he's being selfish, and he's not respecting my the fact that I'm buying him stuff, the tickets and stuff, and so I'm just going to stop doing that. Because he's made it clear that he's not handling this correctly. However, I'll reorient and I'll just go visit him, so I don't have this problem. I'll I'll do my best to influence the situation, but it's not worth blowing up a relationship on. So yeah, I would give him a chance to react in what we consider a reasonable way. If he's completely unreasonable, then just acknowledge that and then handle the situation, granting you're dealing with an unreasonable person. Most major relationship problems, this is true in marriages too, is like you recognize someone is not being reasonable and you still hold them to a standard of reasonableness, and that becomes your fault. Like you just like if when people get in an argument, if one person agrees to not lose their head and to try to stay reasonable in the situation, that fight doesn't go anywhere. Someone blows off steam, they probably apologize for it later. If things come around, you're probably fine. But it's when you amp up and decide you're going to meet towns with this person and like you're being unreasonable, well I will be unreasonable as well. And they're like, yeah, that's when your big problems happen. So like just put them in the right bucket. Just know what you're dealing with. Somehow realize that you're a failure as a parent, and then start visiting them.
My 4-year-old is unreasonable, so I feel like I am an expert in this.
See? That's what I'm saying.
You're holding your own, bro.
There's no reason. That's the thing.
Can you give him time out?
Yeah.
You ever seen a parent amp up and become just as unreasonable with a 4-year-old in the store? You're like, knock it off, man.
Yeah.
That kid is pulling your chain.
Yeah.
Just you don't have to meet them. They look ridiculous. Just kind of look at them. He's like, you're looking real ridiculous right now.
Actually, it's the most pathetic thing in the world to witness. You know what I'm saying? Where like this 3-year-old kid will come doting up with these triple chocolate chip granola bars, and the mom all like, I tell you every time I come here when I get in the trip. I'm like, hey man, the kid was way calmer about this granola bar purchase. You could have been like, yeah man, no,
not gonna happen.
Your kid is out maturing you right now.
Yes, that's right.
You're getting owned.
He saw chocolate chip granola bars, and like any regular person, he's like, heck yeah, I wonder if I can get this.
Who can fault him for that?
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
That's our advice. What's the secular advice?
Secular's advice. Now, hold on. We didn't happen to mention that the man makes 6 figures at 25 years old. I don't know what he went to college for, but like people seem to be having a hard time getting gigs out of college, and not this guy. He shows up cleaning the floor, making 100K right off the bat.
I mean, yeah. So here's the thing: this runs deeper than the plane tickets, right? She's like, hey, he's not paying his student loans.
Yeah.
He's acting. It sounds like he might be irresponsible, but then again, she's going to tell all the details, otherwise support her side of the story. And so you got.
What do you think his side is that supports him paying it late and shafting his mom with $115 in fees?
Student loans.
So here's the question, Mike. Here's the question: what does it say about her that she agreed to do that anyway? So like, if he blew with the settlement, who knows what happens, right?
Yeah.
Man gets hit by a golf cart or something. $60,000 doesn't mean you didn't get hit by a truck,
right?
That's a golf cart, and so he gets hit by a golf cart, gets a settlement of $60,000, can pay for his own stuff. Blows it in her terms, and she says, you know what, I still vouch for him. I'll put this giant, whatever this massive payment is, on my own stuff. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, what are you going to say to him? Should have bought a camper.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah, I say, hey, you had the money, you blew it. I'm not borrowing it. You're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a grace-filled world. Sorry.
Hey, hold on a second.
No hab for this guy. Ben keeps him down in the pit.
So, but by that perspective, you keep buying him the plane tickets.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't do it.
Because he can't steal from me what I give to him.
Now, I hear what you're saying, but I can solve the problem without having to bail plane tickets on him by just going to visit.
Well, aren't you worldly?
You could just take care of it this time, and then, next time, just not offer to buy it. And then that way you don't have to say, well, it's because you did this or you didn't do that. You can just, we're just...
he says, hey, you're not going to cover my plane ticket this time? And your response is?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
If I could give any parenting advice right now,
it's a subtle way to take the hint.
That's right. You just gotta drop one word answer. Stop trying to give your kids a 15-minute explanation on crap. When they say, "Hey, can I have an apple?" You say, "No."
No.
And that's it.
Hey,
boom.
Here's the deal. That guy's old enough. Like, I think he's obviously aware he's not spending his money wisely. Right? I think he knows he's not paying the student loan. He gets people that are jerks tend to have a sense that they're jerks. They just don't want to do anything about it.
He's making 6 figures. He's got to be somewhat intelligent. Right?
I wonder, maybe he's not actually, maybe he's lying about that. Maybe he's not actually making 6 figures.
What a ruse.
Although I wouldn't say that if I also wasn't paying my bills.
Right.
If he's going to lie, he should come up with a better one.
We've made too many assumptions about this man.
All right, go ahead.
So far, he's not stand-up. That's what I know. Secular says, I think that rather than cancel the holidays, which was a bit dramatic, frankly.
Christmas is done.
Yeah, you can hijack it, but you can't cancel it.
That's right. You can't put the X-nay. It says, you and your husband should use the visit to inform your 25-year-old son that it's time to grow up and pay his bills. Because he now has a 6-figure income, thanks to your generosity, he should assume responsibility for his student loan debt and pay it on time. And if he doesn't, consider reviewing your estate plans and subtracting what he owes you. Wow, vindictive right at the end.
I took a stiff turn.
Yeah. Bull, I didn't see that coming. And by the way, gulch him on the will.
Boy, what kind of insertion?
And then roast him on social media.
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of insert is that into the will? It's like, and to Chuck, we leave 50% minus C attached Excel spreadsheet.
All the times you put the bomb
All the
on
plane
me.
ticket fees that we had to pay.
Oh, man.
Plus a 28% VIG. You're in some trouble, friend. All right, yeah, no, our advice was better.
Let's see. You want to do? Let's do one more. Ready?
Yeah, one more.
Dear Live from the Path, I have hearing loss. My insurance isn't very good, and the monthly payments for hearing aids are the equivalent of a car payment. So I try my best and do without. People who know about my hearing loss will talk louder for me or let me know when they need my attention. Even strangers will repeat themselves or talk louder if I say I'm hard of hearing. Problem is that my husband refuses to talk louder for me or make any attempt to improve our communication. He's gone as far as to threaten that he just won't talk to me anymore because he's sick of repeating himself. Well, you heard that, didn't you? No matter how many times I say I can't hear, he practically whispers or will scream at the top of his lungs at me to make a point. It's like he's taking my hearing loss personally, as though somehow my hearing loss is my fault.
This is not funny. I'm sorry.
No. I also feel he may have an ulterior motive for talking softer. Weird. I feel depressed and isolated, and I'm not sure what to do. My marriage is falling apart. Any advice is appreciated.
This is not fair. She can't say, I feel like he has an ulterior motive and not say what it is.
That's what I thought.
I'm interested to know what plot he's... he's acting like a child. That's certainly true. But, like, the reason why is extremely interesting. I really wish she would have said.
I cannot think of an ulterior motive of speaking softly so my wife can understand. To what end? What could your second angle be? Right?
Yeah. Like, well, okay. So I know what I would do. I would talk low enough where she wouldn't respond and be like, I said we should get Pizza Hut and you didn't say anything, so I went ahead and got Pizza Hut. So that can only play for a number of weeks.
Yeah, right.
I feel like a year over
just
year.
for
I
our
would go
personal-
bigger. I'd go like a boat. Like, remember that boat we talked about?
Yeah.
There's a guy at the radio show selling a live Jaguar with a saddle. That's right.
Yeah.
And you didn't say anything, so I felt like that was a test at yes. I don't. Here's the deal. I assume that did she say how old she was?
No.
So I mean, this is just flat out jerky behavior. Like, she's right. Basic strangers recognize when you can't hear, right? Like when someone's having trouble hearing, they speak up. And so, like, if your own either there's something else going on, and like she's reading way too far into whatever his reaction, or the guy's just being like a flat out jerk.
Yeah.
And like the core of it isn't his speaking louder. Like there's another problem going on, probably tied up in those ulterior motives she was discussing. But like, I feel like the guy needs Jesus and some decent friends who'll be like, stop treating your wife like that.
That's true. Decent friends wouldn't allow this to continue,
Yeah.
and then Jesus wouldn't allow this
Talk
to continue.
louder, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they could help out with hearing aid costs too.
Yeah. Second option. Actually, you know what would be interesting is if she got a hearing aid, like what does old Jimmy do? Now what's he gonna do?
Maybe he likes to spend the hearing aid money on other stuff. And
Like
so-
pizza and jet pipes.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Boy, I'm having the hardest time putting a black hat on these ulterior motives of this man. I can't come up with nothing.
Can we get the people from the first question to stop paying for their son's stuff and start giving their money to the hearing aid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Your son's it's a wasted.
Hey.
You're wasting it.
Maybe the son is actually extremely benevolent, and his parents are jerks, and he's letting them pay for it because he's like, screw you, jerk. But he actually giving all his money to charity.
Yeah, that's the act of most benevolent people. They usually bless a bunch of people and then say, screw you, jerk, to their parents. That sounds right.
People are messy and complicated, Mike. Don't you know people?
I have a three-dimensional personality. It's hard to grasp.
All right. So, reasonable advice for this woman is, well, so, okay, one, I would say that something else seems to be going on, right? Like, I know that this for her is centered around her inability to hear. You might see, like, if you have a church family, I would ask to either the pastor or someone around to help mediate a conversation, simply so you have someone that's willing to tolerate talking and to pass on information, if not counseling, certainly. Like something where you have there's obviously a conversation that needs to be had that is bigger than the hearing issue, because there's no reason for that guy to be acting like this was death to his part, and he something's up. Something's up here that's outside of the hearing aid. Secondly, I think there are organizations that do help with hearing aids.
Yeah,
I feel like they can help, and so I couldn't tell you what they are because I've not been in need of one. But I feel like there are places that help do that kind of thing.
I mean, a little bit to be fair. Like sometimes it's hard to judge what level of hearing loss someone has, right?
Yeah.
And then by the time you amp it up enough, now it sounds like you're yelling at them and being a big jerk.
Hey man, that happens to me at my house. I've been married.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, tell your story. I'll parlay. What's that you say? I'm having a hard time.
I'm gonna keep my anecdote to myself. Go ahead.
I was actually done. What
the heck ever? You didn't have any more details.
There's got to be cheaper option for
Like a
hearing
cone?
aid. Well,
Like a cone on it?
like an A?
I don't mean this to sound, the way it's gonna sound, but I've seen they have those like little Bluetooth things that are supposed to be hearing aids, and they're not like the professional like medical hearing aid,
Right.
but they amplify things for you.
Yeah.
And certainly that doesn't cost a car payment.
What if you called them on the phone?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I always thought. Those look like real Bluetooth until you actually get a phone call.
yeah, right.
But I mean, something like that, could sort of like be the halfway point.
Yeah, I think there's options, and maybe he is frustrated, right? Like he wants to have a normal conversation and he can't. But like, he's got to get over that. It's just, that's just the nature of being in a relationship with someone. Like sometimes stuff like that happens, and maybe he's having a hard time dealing with it. Again, friends, you gotta keep some community around you, fella.
Yeah, you need people to both encourage and then put the stomp on you when you need it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry. Did you want to finish your story,
No, never mind. Yeah. So here's the thing. My wife, I've been married 12 years, and this is not changed. It's something that I felt like was going to improve as our marriage goes on, and it's not changed. My lovely wife will talk to me across the house as if I'm in the room. You have this? Mm-hmm. What? And I can hear her saying, I say, hey, I say hey loud. I say, hey, I didn't hear that, and I start walking that direction. And so she says it again, but again, like I'm standing right, and I say, I cannot hear the thing, and so I get into the room, and then now she's upset. She's upset because I did not take it in because I was not in the vicinity, and she's talking loudly and is angry with me. And I thought, boy, I could not have done anything in this situation. And I said, babe, I wasn't near you. That's not the problem. I wasn't ignoring you or anything. I actually started moving your direction. I wasn't going to yell across the house. I moved to you to take it in. But now it sounds like I just ignored her the 3 times. And so now I think to myself, think of that guy's situation, and like he says a few things, and by the 3rd time, now it sounds like he's angry with his wife. But really, he's just unreasonable about her ability to take it in. And so they have some real nasty conversations that were just situational because she didn't hear it well.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like you said something that would have been either funny at the time or a situational thing to say, and then they didn't hear it, and you're like, what was it you said? And you're like, forget it. The time has passed.
No, I don't want to forget it. I want you to tell me. I don't want to say it.
It's not funny now.
Yeah. Then you'd be like, it's a goat picture. And then your wife goes, yeah, goat picture.
Go. No, I said goat picture.
Then she's wishing she didn't hear you.
Yeah. Timely. Thanks, Mike. Okay, Secular says, of course you feel depressed and isolated! ! Your husband either doesn't like or hasn't accepted the fact that you have a hearing disability. Well, I think that's fair. Who would love it? So he's punishing you for it. What he's doing is emotionally abusive. Please have your hearing checked by an audiologist to determine how much of your hearing you have lost. I bet you didn't think of that. Thanks, Secular. Take your husband along so a professional can explain it to him. And be sure to ask if there may be lower cost options for an assistive device that won't bust your budget.
Okay, we said some of that.
Yeah, well, we didn't have near the condescension.
We were pretty close.
We suggested helpful community budget.
Yeah. I don't know.
Text. Hey, text your. Come on now.
Yeah.
Clickety.
Yeah, write it down.
Anything.
Old people have cool cursive handwriting. Before it died off.
That was out of left field, I'll be honest.
You're right to each other.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Cursive. What's cursive?
Dearest Edith. Can you hear me now?
Dear calligraphy.
All right. That's better. We changed the world there. All right. Hey, you've been listening live from the Path. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Again, big thanks to Joy Fopma for joining us to talk about Wings of Refuge. Big thanks to Nate for coming in. He made the trek over here, came into the building, And make sure you go do the things we talked about, right? You're going to go to merrychristmasday.com. You're going to follow Merry Christmas Nate and Wings of Refuge on the Facebook. You can go to wingsofrefuge.net to hear more about them and to find those the resources, the books to read. They've got some clips that you can watch and some other websites that you can visit. Be praying on that stuff. And here's the deal: whether it's sex trafficking, whether it is the drug recovery, whether it is looking at healthcare differently, take everything that where darkness may exist in the world and recognize God's got people on it for a reason. It's the church is His chosen means to share good news into the world and watch hope and joy restored. That ultimately points us back to the truth of what Christ has done for us, both now and forever. So just be part of that, man. That's where that stuff comes from. And we get to be a part of that. That's an honor to serve the kingdom in that way, and I would encourage you to be part of it. So big thanks again. We will see you. I don't know. We may not be in here next week. I'll double check it. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.